Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brad Lone Wolf, and today you join me in my kitchen where I'm going to be doing a review of yet another product. Now these products have actually been on the market for several years now. I can't remember how long they've been on the market, but I wanted to do a review of them and what I thought was good about them, what I thought was bad about them, and whether I actually think they're worth it to go in your bag or your pack or whatever you want. Now the product that I'm going to be reviewing is this. It's the Wayfarers meal pouches, meal ready to eat, whatever you want to call them. There are several different varieties out there. I've gone for the veg chili and rice, and yeah, so I'm going to be doing a review on those. Now the first thing I will say on these is I remember when these first came out, and I did actually have one, and it was awful. It was horrible. You could taste the metal in it, the metallic pouches. It was awful. I hated them. However, I know they've improved their recipes since then. I know they have. Several people have told me they're actually quite nice now. So I'm willing to give them another go. So with that being said, I'm going to put some water on now, get water boiling, and I'll discuss the ins and outs of the pouches. So back in a second. Okay, so I've got the water going. The water's on the boil now. And while it's boiling, I'll discuss the actual pouches themselves. Now, as I say, they've been around for several years now. They're not the only ones on the market. There are several different varieties. There's also some dehydrated packs on the market as well, which are a lot lighter than these, and I will discuss the weight in a second. Dehydrated ones tend to be a little bit more expensive though. With that in mind, the cost of each of these pouches is between £5 and £6. So right there is a con. For £5 each minimum, for a full day's meal, for a full day's walk, you're looking at a minimum of £15 for 3 meals. Now that's a lot of money for most people. Even these days, that's half of a weekly shop for one day's walking. The other downside to these is their weight. In comparison to dehydrated meals and possible meals that you can make yourself, these are heavy. I mean, the pouch itself with the meal is 300 grams. So again, looking at one day walking, breakfast, midday meal, evening meal, you're looking at nearly a kilo of weight on your back. So, you know, a couple of downsides there you've really got to think about with these pouches. On the plus side, however, they are pre-cooked, so you don't actually have to cook them. You don't have to heat them up at all in any way, shape or form. You can literally just tear the top off and eat it cold. It's not going to do you any harm. On the other side, on the plus side as well, another plus side is their longevity. I mean, this is a fully sealed pouch, and the use by date is July of 2026. So that's 2.5 years, nearly 3 years. But this will quite happily sit on the shelf. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. Will quite happily sit on the shelf. I've already discussed the cons, which was the price and the weight. There are 3 ways to prepare one of these meals, one of these pouches. The first one is to eat it cold. Like I've already said, they're pre-cooked. They're not going to do you any harm if you eat it cold, which is just a case of take the top off and eat it. The second way is to empty the contents into a pot and cook it up as you would a normal meal. Or the third method, which is the method I'm going to do, is boil in the bag. So I'm boiling water right now, which is what's on the stove right now. Once it's boiling, I'm going to put this in for about 7 to 8 minutes, and then after that it's done, it will be ready to eat. Now, each of the heating methods has their pros, has their cons, as with everything. If you heat it, if you take the stuff out of the bag and heat it in the pot as you would a normal meal, you're going to dirty up your pot. You're going to need to wash the pot up, which will use a little bit more water, and obviously washing up liquid, so on and so forth. Whereas, because these bags are made from aluminium, if you boil in the bag, you can't use the water for anything else. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. If you boil in the bag, you don't have to wash up, you just tip the water away, but you're kind of wasting the water. Whereas if you cook from the pouch, you empty the contents of the pouch into a pan, you've got to wash up, so you're using water anyway. So it swings and roundabouts, and whichever you want to do. Now, as I say, I'm going to boil in the bag for this one, just because I'm feeling lazy today more than anything else. So I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to wait for the pot to boil. Once it's boiling, we'll put the pouch in, and then well, once it's ready, I'll eat it. So back in a second. Cool, right, so the water's boiling. I'm going to submerge the pouch now, nice and gently. I'm not going to drop it in. I'll make sure that it is fully submerged though, as much as I can. Use a proper fork. There we go. Right. So now I'm going to leave that for, like I say, about 7 to 8 minutes. I'll see you then. Okie dokie, so it's been about 7 or 8 minutes now. So turn the stove off. Now you might be wondering why I said to discard the water when it's a boil in the bag. It actually says it. I don't know if you can see it on there, but it actually says it on the bag itself, discard the water. Again, don't know if you can see that. Right, let's open up the pouch and see what these taste like. Alright, so as I said before, I've actually had these in the past, and back then they weren't very nice. Didn't taste very nice at all. But from what I've heard, as I say, I understand they've changed the recipe. So let's see what they're like. They're not too bad. This one's not too bad. Obviously, I can't say anything for the other meals out there. Yeah, this one's not too bad actually. I've certainly tasted worse. I've certainly cooked worse. So, in terms of these pouches, are they decent value for money? No. Not at £5 a pop, minimum. Would I recommend them? Kind of on the fence on this one. On the one hand, yes, because you don't have to think about your meal preparation and what you're going to be taking for food. But on the other hand, they're expensive and they're heavy. And as I say, there are other options out on the market, not just dehydrated, but also making your own as well. In terms, if you were to pack one of these as an emergency meal, I would absolutely recommend one of these as an emergency meal. It sits in the bottom of your bag. If you're in an emergency, you know, you're going to be waiting several hours or whatever, or maybe a couple of days. Definitely one of these in the bottom of your bag as an emergency meal. Apart from that, there's not really much else to say on these. So you've heard what I've had to say. Hopefully it gives you a better idea, a better understanding of what these meals are about, and whether you'd actually want to include them in your bag or not. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.